with JT Miller's future now, for him to be a Vancouver Canuck, he needs to be a center. Do you think that these conversations with JT Miller happen in the offseason where the team is exploring? I hear some of the stuff that Frank Seravalli is reporting about this, where, he said this yesterday on Halford and Bruff, that 2 first-round picks, they were starting to talk about the Jason Zucker money, how they're going to move that around. If they were getting that far on it from these reports from Frank Seravalli, I can't see a world where you wouldn't trade JT Miller for 2 first-round picks to reset your roster.
I don't understand, who's going to trade you 2 first-round picks?
That's what I'm saying. But I'm listening to Frank Seravalli saying this on radio. Yeah, that's a good point. So I feel like, if the Canucks were looking for more than that, that's what blows me away a little bit. I guess the Zucker money somehow mixed into it.
I don't know. I feel like there's too much.
I don't think it's possible to.
I feel like there's too much. And I understand it, but there's too much speculation for me to look at that and go and be able to assess, A, what his trade value is definitively and what teams are going to pay for him. And B, it's clear that they had some level of conversations and they went pretty deep with Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
Do you have any other team that would make sense? Well, I see a lot of people mentioning, we have Seattle being mentioned, St. Louis, Carolina. Carolina feels like one to me that I would want to explore a little bit. They might need to re-up there a little bit.
They don't strike me as a team that's going to give up.
No, and I don't think so.
2 first-round picks.
Some of the stuff I've heard is they're not. They're a team that, as though it makes a lot of sense in some people's eyes, I don't think there's any interest from the Carolina Hurricanes to get JT Miller.
Yeah, so
that's just what I've heard.
I'll be honest. I don't know how this is going to play out, especially because he's shown a lot better under Tocchet down the stretch. I genuinely don't know, especially because you're already short a center. So if you're a retooling team, having already made the Hronek trade, trying to be successful for next season, are they going to feel confident in being able to replace Miller's value? And now you'll just have Pettersson down the middle?
Here's the argument against that. You trade Bo Horvat, you think this team's into rebuilding situation. And the one consistent thing with the Vancouver Canucks over the past few years is their inconsistency. So nothing would shock me at this point.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I'm just saying I don't know. I genuinely don't know one way or another how they would view all of this, because on the other hand, they may also look at it and go, nobody has a problem with JT Miller's point production this season, right? He was right around a point per game. Honestly, nobody expected him to repeat 99 points. So point production this year, check mark. Problem is the two-way form, even with the surge that he had down the stretch. You're talking about a player who, I think before last night's game, at 5-on-5 was still outscored by 13 goals. Mm-hmm. So, that you didn't win those matchups, and it wasn't by...
There's points in the season you're looking at the Canucks expected goals per 60 against, and JT Miller is by and far the number 1 at worst in the league for expected goals against. That's before
and
Tocchet,
it's
so you can half check mark that with Tocchet at least,
right?
But not a full check mark.
Yeah, so it's how do you view that, especially for a contract that hasn't even kicked in yet?
That's the craziest thing of this whole thing.
So that's you can make a convincing argument both ways, and that's why I look at it and I go, especially for management, it seems like they themselves have always, kind of flip-flopped it, right? First he was supposed to be a trade chip, and we had all those rumors at the last trade deadline. And I know that even internally, they thought it was more likely that they were going to move Miller than keep him. At that time when they took over and they were approaching not this past trade deadline, the first one that Alvin and Rutherford had, they figured that Bo Horvat was more likely to be a long-term Canuck than JT Miller.
One guy had a C on his chest. The other guy was, both were expired.
Yeah, and then the deeper they got into trade conversations and realized that, okay, they're probably not going to get quite the return they wanted in terms of win-now pieces. I think that's when they went, all right, this guy's a 99-point player. Let's just lock him up, right? And then, of course, at the deadline, you hear the rumors from a lot of insiders that they at least had talks. So it's they were open to it even after the Horvat trade. But then now he has this great stretch run again. So, you know what? That's why I'm I have no idea. That's my honest answer. No, I have no idea.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's something we'll be talking about a lot in the offseason.